We're going to go ahead and get started. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, say hello, where you're from, and we are going to kick this off with some quick introductions, and then Dale is going to get right down to it. I mentioned before we're going to save some time for Q&A at the end, so please, throughout the presentation, feel free to pop some questions in to that QA area at the bottom of your screen. If you roll over the bottom, it should pop up in the bar, and you can type in anything, any questions. If we can get to it live, we will. If not, we'll be following up with some more information. But without further ado, I want to introduce myself really quick for those of you who may not have met me yet. Sarah Cords, VP of Client Experience at Strategy at Vi. I've worked for Vi for several years. Really excited about everything that's coming out around AI, HubSpot, different tools. At Vi, we've really been testing out a lot of different things that Dale's going to share with you. And then Dale is going to be the primary presenter today. He comes to you with over a decade of experience in the industry across both sales and marketing at the agency. He also works on the Vi marketing plan. He's an AI enthusiast, sits on our Vi AI task force, and is an early adopter of AI in business uses. Dale, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for, setting us up here. Really excited about today. We got a lot of content, so I'm going to be talking a lot, and I'm probably going to be talking pretty fast and hopefully leaving you with some, thought starters and getting your gears turning about how you can start implementing, some AI workflows in your day-to-day. My goal here today is really just to give you some practical use cases. There's so many new tools coming out every day about AI, involving AI. There's so much content out there. There's so many people that claim to be the expert and claim to have the right answer. It's really, really hard to cut through the noise because there's so much of it. It can be really overwhelming. I myself, I'm using these tools a lot every day. I get overwhelmed. And I think it really starts to cause some paralysis by analysis. So our goal today is really just to simply show you some real examples of how we're using this new technology in our day-to-day right now. By no means is it the perfect use case, and by no means are these the only ways that you can leverage AI and that we're leveraging AI. But, my hope today is just to get your gears turning on how you can start implementing some AI into your daily workflows, so you can start to working a little bit smarter and faster. So, today's agenda, like Sarah said, we've got a couple of real example workflows for you. The first one we're calling turn a prospect call into a client-ready proposal in 15 minutes. So we'll walk you through that first. And then next, I want to dive into a few examples of how we use the ChatGPT and HubSpot deep research connector to ID revenue opportunities before they're missed. So I'll explain a little bit about what that connector is and how it works for those of you that may have never heard of it or have never used it, and then show a couple of examples of how we use it on a regular basis. And then finally, just talk a little bit about some of the prerequisites that you're going to need in order to make AI work for you. Hint, it's your CRM and your data for the most part, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we'll wrap up with a little bit of Q&A. So wanted to kind of start things off before diving into this first use case. Just asking a quick question. I encourage everyone to, put some of your thoughts in the chat. What's your team's biggest hidden tax each week right now? And what I mean by hidden tax is, what are some low value manual tasks that you're doing on a weekly basis that you feel is eating up too much of your time? Put a couple examples below the question here as thought starters, but would love to hear some of the stuff that you guys are thinking about in the chat. So workflow one, this first one is taking a prospect call and turning it into a tailored proposal in 15 minutes. I know we got a good mix of sales and marketing people here, so this might lean a little bit more sales, but I'm sure the marketing folks out there can still get a lot of value from this too. Just want to be clear up front, this is not about skipping strategy and skipping on the important parts of putting together a great proposal for a client. It's about getting a really quality first draft faster so you can spend more time on that strategy. So what this workflow really helps you to do is, one, remove the risk of forgetting key details from conversations with prospects when you're putting together a proposal. The second is drastically speeding up the turnaround time, which gives you a competitive edge because, as we all know, time is really what kills deals. And the third is it really injects the voice of the customer into your proposal to ensure that it resonates with them directly based on their own words. So first, I just want to give a quick overview of what the workflow looks like. Then we'll talk a little bit about the tools we use, and then I'll dive into a real example and pull up the note taker and HubSpot and all that good stuff. So,
Dale,
um,
Dale, really quick, one of the attendees mentioned that their hidden tax is meeting notes in HubSpot, prospect cadence touch points, and prioritizing prospecting efforts.
well, for whoever said prospect notes in HubSpot, you're going to love this first one because it's going to eliminate that from your life entirely and probably get you some better notes in HubSpot. So, all good stuff right there. I think everything that we're going to address in this presentation kind of touches on all three of those. But just to give a quick overview of the workflow, so AI note takers is really where this all begins. I see some of the folks that are here actually have those already. If you don't, start using them, especially if you're in sales. It is a lifesaver, and I don't know how I'd work as effectively and fast as I do now if I weren't using them. So first step is really have an AI note taker join all your calls. Then what happens is the AI note taker obviously records the call. There's a transcript involved with that. And then I'll get a little bit more into this after this, but delivering insights directly into CRM from those calls. And we'll talk about HubSpot in this instance because that's what we do. The third step is really gathering reference documents. And what I mean by that is past proposals or pitch decks that you've done. This helps to give the AI more context around your sales process, the way you frame your company's strategic narrative, all that stuff. The fourth step is to upload the transcript and the reference documents into ChatGPT. And finally, you're now ready to work with ChatGPT to draft a proposal outline in the client's own words in really a matter of minutes. Quickly, I'm just going to cover on the tools we use. At Vi, we use Otter. That's what we found works best for us. There are a lot of note takers out there. I saw someone using Fathom in the chat. That's another good one. It does integrate directly with HubSpot for all you HubSpot users out there. It has fully customizable insights, and I'll touch on that in just some second here whenever we're going through the example. And the second thing I want to mention is HubSpot actually is rolling out their own note taker, which is awesome. I'm sure we will transfer into using that when it is fully rolled out. It's still in beta right now, but it essentially does all the things that I just described that Otter does, but it will be native to HubSpot, which is great. So you don't have to have extra integrations and, introduce risk to things breaking and things like that. Cool. So next, I'm actually just going to dive right into a real example. So what you see here is everybody seeing Otter now? Sarah, you seeing Otter? Just to make sure my tabs are working. Cool. This is what is going to be spit out at the end of so this was a discovery call that I had with a prospect. Obviously, you have your transcript here of the actual conversation that's going to give you a summary of, this is what the call was about. These are the key action items coming out of the call. And then when I say custom insights, this is what Otter is really good at and was one of the key features that we really liked and why we went with them. You can customize what these insights are coming out of the call to your specific sales process. So what that means is generative AI is going to scan the transcript after the call, and whatever insights are important to you coming out of a discovery call or whatever type of call it is going to take the transcript and then give you information and start to develop insight around the key things that you need to know. So it's not going to surprise anyone. I don't think a lot of the things that we want to know coming out of a sales call are similar across industries and types of businesses. So buying authority, what were the key objections? What were the key needs that they outlined? What were the biggest questions they have? The overall sentiment of the call, and then timeline, budget, competition, things like that. And the best part about this is, and for whoever said their biggest hidden tax is CRM notes, this goes directly into HubSpot exactly how you just saw it. So you don't need to take CRM notes anymore. As long as you are asking the right questions, it is going to automatically port these over into the contact record and the deal. And it's also going to link to the transcript in the recording of the call. So for each call that you have throughout this process is going to do this, and no more logging CRM notes. You focus on the important human stuff, which is the strategy, making sure you're listening and asking the right questions. So then what we do from here, and this is a big component of how we develop our, custom proposals at Vi these days, is then we take these transcripts and we put them into ChatGPT. So I'm actually pulling up the chat that I used to create this pitch deck for this client. And what I normally do to start is I give it context, which is always important. There's a couple ways to do that. You can do that in the settings of ChatGPT, but I kind of just have a boilerplate, like, this is who I am, this is my role, this is what Vi does, this is what we solve for customers in my notes app on my desktop. And every time I start any one of these, I post it in here. So you want to act as a business development professional working at Vi, yada, yada, yada. Gives it the context. And then I actually attached the transcript from the discovery call. And I said, attach to the transcript from initial introduction call you had with this client. Analyze the call transcript. Remember everything that was discussed for the conversation moving forward. Then you really, really quickly start to see how this starts to propel itself into an outline of a proposal after really just one prompt. It'll tell you, this is what we learned about the client. These were the stated goals and the pain points. Now that it has context around who Vi is and what my role is, these are the opportunity areas for Vi to help with stated pain points. So a big thing for them was market entry into the Twin Cities market, targeting senior living and social services. So a market entry strategy is what we should talk about in this pitch. Increasing brand awareness within that market, creating demand, account intelligence, helping them figure out who are the companies that fit their target within the metro. So it starts to build, like, these are the pillars of the things that we should be talking about during this proposal based on what the client actually said they need and they want. And then metrics to anchor within the proposal. This is what they said success would look like. You start to get the idea. And then from there, I said, this is great. I want you to help me put together a deck that shows a draft of an initial strategy, market sizing, awareness and lead gen plan, first 2-month roadmap, a high-level budget, reporting cadence, anything else you feel is important. The goal of this is to give them the confidence in the information that they need to make a good decision, and then go talk to their boss about it. And then you start getting slides written out that actually have the voice of the customer in them. I actually turned on, there's a deep research functionality within ChatGPT, for those who don't know, that I can scrape the internet. So it actually started to do the market snapshot and say, this is how many licensed assisted living facilities are in the metro area. This is the market potential. So I think at this point, you're starting to see, like, it's not perfect, but it starts to get you to that first draft that's really, really custom, really fast. So then you're spending the majority of your time tweaking and using your own expertise to get it to the right spot. Something that probably would have taken, I don't know, a couple people in a couple of days in the past just happened within 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So I know that we all don't have the same sales process, but hopefully you're all seeing from this workflow kind of something that resonates with you, and how you could start to use the concept of taking transcripts from sales calls to get a leg up in the next steps coming out of those calls and moving more towards a decision. So that was the first one. Any reactions, anything that, any questions you have, feel free to start throwing those in the chat. We'll address them at the end. Next, wanted to jump into the HubSpot deep research connector with ChatGPT and some workflows around that. But before I do that, just had another question as a thought starter for you all. So if you had 1 hour, your boss asked you had 1 hour to find hidden revenue in your sales and marketing pipeline, where would you start? What would you do? Start thinking about that. Throw some of those in the chat. It's always good to get some thought starters, and hopefully I answer some of the places that you can start now with this new technology.
Hey, Dale, we have a question about the functionality you just reviewed from Jill. She's asking, is it directly available in HubSpot?
Directly available in HubSpot in terms of the AI note taker. Is that a question? It is. It's in beta. So you can sign up for the beta and you can start using it today. It might take a little bit for them to approve that, but yes, that functionality is available in HubSpot today.
And then a follow-up, AI note taker and the ability to create draft proposals, which is a great segue into something we'll be talking about in just a little bit.
Yeah. So the next one is how we're using the ChatGPT and HubSpot deep research connector to identify opportunities before we miss them and it's too late. I wanted to kind of start this off by just explaining what this technology is for those of you that might not know. So essentially, it is a direct integration between your ChatGPT account and your HubSpot account. In the past, whenever you did deep research through ChatGPT, it was using the entire internet as its data source. Now you can turn that off and turn your HubSpot account on. So now it's using all the data in your CRM as its data source. So it can scrape your entire CRM. That means contacts, companies, deals, all the notes, all the activities, anything that's in HubSpot, ChatGPT can now call on that data and then use generative AI to work with you to get insight from that data and then put plans in motion really quickly. This is very transformative for a lot of reasons. But the biggest ones in my mind are you can get answers way faster than you did in the past. Say you had a question about, your pipeline. In the past, you'd have to go in, you'd have to create a report, you'd have to make sure the report is correct, you'd have to analyze the numbers and then think through what is the insight coming through this. You can ask that question now. You can say, what's the data? Structure it, give me insight from it, just in a chat module. We'll show some examples. It helps you make smarter decisions, obviously, because there's not really a limit to the questions that you can ask it. And the other really cool thing is, once you get the insight from HubSpot around your own data, that you can then put that into action by using web sources as a deep research tool as well. So for example, if you want to say, how many companies do I have in this industry within HubSpot? It tells you that. You say, okay, I want to get more within this size, in this geo, within the CRM. What are some companies that fit that ICP? And then it can go scrape the internet and tell you that stuff. So it really just helps to make it a lot more actionable because you can use cross-data insights. So that's what it is. And next I have 3 examples. Sarah, you raising your hand?
Yeah, there was a really good question from Amanda on what plan for ChatGPT do you need to have for this to work?
Yep. So as long as you have the Pro plan, you can use this, which is $20 a month. I'd recommend if your team's going to start using it, you look into the team plans, which is like $30 a month, but it's not a huge investment at all. Cool. So I know we have 17 minutes here, so I'm gonna zip through these pretty quick, but hopefully you start to see the power of this pretty quickly. So the first one is the one that we call, forget the name, from Find, Fix, and Follow-Up Workflow. So the purpose of this is to identify risks in your immediate sales pipeline and then put together action plans to make sure that you're progressing them and nothing slips through the cracks. So the first thing that we ask is find all the deals in our sales pipeline right now with a close date in the current month, so August, where the last activity was more than 14 days ago. So we haven't emailed them, we haven't had a meeting, we haven't taken any sort of action with them in 14 days. I want you to give me a table that has the deal name, the owner of that deal, what stage is it in, how much, and what's the deal size, and the last activity date. They'll always ask you some follow-up questions just to make sure that it's getting you the right data if you weren't super clear, which is nice, because clarity is super important whenever you're prompting this stuff. But then it spits out this table. It says, these are all the deals that meet that criteria in your pipeline right now in the format that you asked it for. And you can copy this stuff, put it in Excel if you want to make different reports. So next, I said, identify the most likely blockers preventing progress on these deals based on activity in HubSpot. And what you can see, cite the fields that are used to determine the blocker, and then give me one clear, specific next step to address that. You get this table here, which starts to give you an action plan. And then I took it a step further and said, for the top 5 deals in terms of deal size, draft a short follow-up email to the prospect that addresses the blocker, references the last activity, suggests what we should do next, keep them under 120 words, keep them short and sweet, professional, good tone. And then you start to see, I went from not knowing which deals I need to pay attention to, because there's a potential risk there, to emails to each of them to progress the deal in 10 minutes. Again, something that probably would have taken half the day before. It's not every email is going to be perfect, but like your ability to get from not knowing to insight to action is light years ahead in terms of speed as it was not even 2 months ago using a tool like this. The next one, we call the executive pipeline snapshot. So I'm sure a lot of you have to give your bosses reports on what's happening with the sales pipeline and where things are at. That can be time consuming as well. And it's something you got to do on a regular basis. And one thing I want to preface with all of this is you can set these up to be automated. So you can tell ChatGPT, I want this insight ran every Sunday at 11 p.m. So when you wake up on Monday morning, this is all sitting in your account, ready to go, and you can hit the ground running, and you're not spending all of your Monday gathering this information. You're actually acting on it. And this is happening when you're sleeping. So what we ask it to do is, pull data on all active deals in the current quarter, include the deal name, all the different properties that you want within this. It'll ask you some follow-up questions, gives me a table with all the deals in the pipeline, the owner, the stage, the amount, close date, how long has it been in this stage, last activity date, kind of just the prerequisite. And then taking it a step further, something we like to use at Vialot is the Rose, Thorn, Bud framework. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's a really great way for delivering insight and delivering feedback. So roses are things that are working. Thorns are things that are not working, and buds are areas of opportunity. It's a really friendly way to deliver insight to executives too, because it's very clear in the way it's broken out. So then I asked, using the table above, give me a rose, thorn, bud. What's working, what's not, where are the opportunities? Give me 3 to 5 bullets for each category. And then you have this every single, if this is something you got to deliver to your boss every Monday, you got it pretty much automatically while you sleep, being delivered to you every Monday. And it just helps you keep a healthy pulse on what's going on, right? Keeping yourself honest, and it removes the manual work that has to happen to pull this type of stuff. And the last one here is really more for the marketing folks out there. This one I think is very particularly cool. It's really about analyze. So it plays off the call transcript idea as well. So a prerequisite of this is you have to have your transcripts in CRM. But this is one we use to make sure that we are identifying the pain points and the challenges we're hearing consistently in sales calls. So then marketing can make sure that they're acting on that by creating different content and different offers to address what we're hearing in the market without having to have a sales and marketing collaboration meeting, you have the telephone game at that point. This is actually based on data of what we're hearing in these call transcripts. So we ask it to identify and extract any mentions of challenges, pain points, or frustrations expressed by prospects. Give us a table with who those prospects are, the stage, and the pain point. Gives us that table. You'll see manual data entry, complex platform integration requirements, or hindering our project expansion, whatever it may be. And then I said, from the table above, group the pain points into clear categories or themes. For each theme, tell me how many times it appeared and rank them. Summarize in plain language, and then give me 2 quotes and examples of what they mean by that. So then it ranks like, we heard website and technology limitations 9 times. Here are some of the things people are saying about it. Lack of internal capacity or expertise. This starts to give you an idea of like, these are the actual problems. We're not assuming at this point that people are dealing with, that we're talking to about becoming a customer. And then I said, from each pain point in the theme above, suggest 2 to 3 marketing offers or content ideas that could help address the concern and generate leads. Here are some examples of what those might be. Keep the ideas practical, something that we can actually act on in the next quarter. And then it gives you a breakdown of like, hey, here's some ideas for the marketing team of different offers or content that you could put together to, act on these pain points. And, I preface this with like, none of this is going to be perfect right out the gate, but it gets the gears turning so much faster and gives you seeds, ideas so much faster where, this could have been a whole week long project before. The marketing team has to go to talk to the sales team. Sales team has to make time and gather their notes to understand what the pain points are. Marketing then has to brainstorm. This happens in 30 minutes. And then you spend your time actually fine-tuning the strategy and executing, not all the other stuff. So those are the 3 examples I put together for today. I'm sure everybody's gears are turning on different ways you can use this. The possibilities are kind of endless. If it's in the CRM, you can act on it. But yeah, that's what we got for you today in terms of, some of the workflows that we're acting on right now. I kind of wanted to leave you with, you got to set yourself up for success to actually use this stuff. The number one prerequisite to using the deep research connector with ChatGPT is your data has to be good. If your data sucks, you're putting garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. It's going to be useless. So the first step to using this is making sure that you have clean data. So coming out of this, we wanted to offer a free AI readiness HubSpot audit. We'll just look at kind of all the standard properties, start to get an understanding of like, what are the questions that you want answered, and make sure your data is structured in a way that allows you to get those answered and get the most out of the tool. So we'll send out links and stuff like that. If that's something you're interested in, fill that out and we can get something in motion for you. And then the next one was prompting best practices. This becomes kind of a reflex once you start to use the tool consistently. But we wanted to put together, some best practices for you and put some thought starters. So after the call, we're also going to send out a free prompt starter kit. So it's just going to be a deck that's kind of broken down by different job functions that give you, 5 different prompts that you can start to try and use within this tool. So we'll leave you with those 2 things. And I did it. 8 minutes. We got time for Q&A. Perfect.
Absolutely. We actually don't have a ton of new questions. So I'm just going to start with one that we often get, which is, where can AI really save time in creating those first drafts of sales materials, sales proposals, things like that? Dale, you went over it pretty quickly. Do you want to talk a little bit more about your tips and tricks and how you've trained AI to follow certain agendas and common questions?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is context. You have to get I think a lot of people get frustrated with AI at the start because they just go in and say, give me this. AI needs the context that you want it to have. So always making sure like it has to understand who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, who are your customers, what does your company do, what's the goal of this piece of content. If you don't give it any context, it's just gonna run rampant. So I definitely spend some time in the upfront of like, okay, if I'm think of it like it's literally a toddler that has no idea about any of what you do. You need to think about it on that simple of a level is like, what are all of the things that this tool must know in order to get the content right? I'd say that's the biggest place to start, or else you're kind of just gonna get very bland and surface level ideas and thought starters. So I think that's where a lot of people kind of like throw their hands up and they're like, this tool sucks. I'm not going to use it. You got to give it context. That's the biggest thing. And I think you start to build upon where the gaps are in the context too, the more you use it, because it'll generate something you're like, that's not quite right. So you just need to keep working with it. And ChatGPT has something called memory, where it actually in your account remembers all the things you've told it in the past. So the more you use it, the more context you give it, the better outputs you're gonna get.
And one of the interesting things that you had started doing several months ago at Vi was when we first started incorporating Otter Notes. You took what is essentially our sales brief. So these are the common questions. So you could think of it in your process as like, how do you qualify people that are going to make good clients or customers or good fits for your services? So we took those questions, Dale fed them into Otter. And do you want to talk a little bit about that process, how you took those? And now that's the standard of how Otter organizes the notes within the deals. So it's already answering those questions and it makes it a really easy way for the team to get up to speed on what's happening in the conversations because it bullets out those answers within the questions.
Yeah. So I mean, the old process was have the call, take notes, go fill out the sales brief template, which is, what's the company and what do they do? Who are their customers? Who are the key stakeholders? Biggest pain points? What are their goals? What are they looking for? Um, that process alone could take 2 to 3 hours. Now it's AI note taker, join the call. Here is our sales brief. These are the questions we want answered coming out of this call. And then it takes the transcript and knows that we've instructed it to do that. So it automatically takes the transcript and answers the questions and puts them in that structure within the notes of the HubSpot deal. So you don't have to do the sales brief anymore. As long as you're making sure that you're asking the right questions, it's going to happen for you automatically. And that's what we want, right? We want to spend our time as sellers, and focusing on the important things, not sitting there taking notes the entire time. We want to focus on listening, the strategy, asking the right questions.
Yeah, excellent. Any other questions from our attendees before we wrap up today? And maybe while people are thinking if they have any other questions to add to the Q&A, Dale, for you and our team, what is the biggest tax? If you want to talk a little bit about that.
I mean, it definitely was like sales briefs and writing the bulk of proposals. There's a lot of, detail that needs to go into those things. So like as much heavy lifting that we could get done, like I think we've cut a lot of that out of the sales process. So we're focusing more on how do we get better and how do we generate more pipeline and what are the right strategies and what are the right strategies to be putting together for our clients. Whereas before we were spending hours on like the take the call notes, fill out the brief, put together the deck, put together the proposal based off of the deck, where like AI is now handling 90% of that. And then 10% of it is us like going in saying, like, oh, this wasn't quite right. This is where this can be better. I'd say that was our biggest hidden tax. And I think the next step for us is more of what's happening with the deep research connector which is still relatively new, is the getting the insights from the reporting and being able to act on that faster. I think that's a place that we can still get better, and a lot of people can still get better, is, setting up more automation around like, okay, this is what's happening from a marketing and sales perspective. These are where the opportunities lie, and here's some thought starters, and acting on that way faster in a more consistent cadence. So I'd say, reporting and insight, I think that's a big thing for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to share with the group before we wrap up?
I'd say, if you even just want to bounce some ideas off me or have some questions you want to ask on a one-on-one setting, or just interested in this a little bit more, like, we're going to send out my meeting scheduler link after this. Feel free to grab 15 minutes with me. It can be super casual, but I'm happy to. I love this stuff and I'm very interested in it. So if you want to take that opportunity to bounce any ideas off me or just need some help, like, I'm 100% open to that.
Excellent. Thank you all for joining us. You will all be receiving emails starting tomorrow with the recording, as well as links if you would like an AI readiness audit for your portal, which is complimentary, and also Dale's meeting link, although you can find him really quickly on LinkedIn too.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.